The Federal Reserve in this short period of time of a year or two have dealt in trillions of dollars, and we don't even know about it. We didn't appropriate the money. We didn't authorize the money. We didn't, designate it at all. They did it all on their own. They're a government unto themselves. And that has to end. We have to know what they're doing. Also, the Federal Reserve today can negotiate behind the scenes in secrecy with other governments, other central banks, international financial organizations. They make agreements, they make deals, they make promises, and we don't know anything about it. It's equivalent to them writing treaties with other governments. It isn't ratified by the Congress, and the House of Representatives knows nothing about it, and the people suffer, and the establishment benefits from this, and their guys get bailed out. That has to end. I am suspicious that before this debate is over, and we have a long way to go, as well as we're doing with Audit and Fan, we have a long way to go. I believe what they'll do is they'll come up with some argument, and they'll start talking about, well, you know, we can't reveal all these secrets because it's going to hurt national security. That's always it. Well, we can't try these people in the open and do it under constitutional law. We would reveal our secrets, and it would hurt our national security interests. Well, I thought that's why we go to war and fight for, is to protect our Constitution and make sure we follow the rules of the law and not to cover up.
Yeah.
Federal Reserve is secret. I imagine it's every bit, if not more, secret than the CIA. Now, there's room for intelligence gathering. There's no doubt about it. But the CIA has not done a good job. Whether they're just totally inept and they don't want to give us the right information, I don't think anybody knows that answer. But whether it's 9/11 or the end of the breakdown of the Soviet system or whatever, they have never given our government and our people accurate information. But we are learning more about the CIA. We do know that in the last several years, a decade or two, that we as a people have allowed our CIA to make 50 attempts to kill leaders of other countries. Now, I would say that's not a good idea. You know, what we should be doing is learning how to get along with people and not trying to undermine their governments all the time. We have troops in 130 countries. We have over 700 bases. In every one of those countries and in every one of those incidents, I can guarantee you that we have CIA agents involved as well. Every time you hear about an election in a country overseas, you can be assured our CIA knows what's going on. Now you would say, well, that is wonderful. They're going to go over and protect democracy. But the whole thing is so often we go over, and if the right guy doesn't get elected, that's when we say that they need thrown out. And then we go in and support the other people. This is why the founders were absolutely correct on arguing the case that a non-interventionist foreign policy minding our own business would be in the best interest of all of us in this country. There's been a recent election in Iran, and they're still arguing about it. But we have, the Congress has actually authorized over $400 million for programs of trying to overthrow that government. Now, that's a bad government over there, but is that the way to do it? I don't believe so. I think there's a much better way. Right now, when we go back in September, the Congress is likely to vote on a resolution that will blockade and put sanctions on Iran. They're already on, and they're very destructive, as we did in Iraq for 15 years. But we're about to do this to the Iranian people. That is, we're going to cut off, in addition to the sanctions, we're going to cut off all gasoline going into Iran. Now, the purpose of this, the explanation is that the Ayatollah is the bad guy, and we're going to punish the people. The people are going to get angry and throw out the Ayatollah. But you know what? It does exactly the opposite. It brings the people together. Can you imagine if a foreign nation came here and played games like that to undermine our government, or put troops on our land, or claimed it was their oil in the Gulf of Mexico? I mean, we would be furious about that. So we now are facing another major crisis in the Middle East, a continuation of the crisis. It really has been going on for decades. It started in the early 1990s, and it's been persistent. And we had the war in Iraq, which is going to continue. The violence is escalating. We have the war in Afghanistan that right now, today, there was a bombing in Kabul that they used to call Karzai the mayor of Afghanistan because he only had the one city. But now there was a bombing of the NATO base in Kabul today, which was a major, major explosion, and the Allies are not bearing the brunt of this. The American people are bearing the brunt of this. So the war is going on in Pakistan, Afghanistan, potentially in Iran, and you know what? It costs a lot of money. We're on the verge of doing what all great nations have done, have done in the past. That is, stretch out too far, get overextended, and believe that they can do this and survive. Just as they don't think for a minute about introducing $1 trillion medical program, there's not a minute thought or concern, Democrat or Republican, about the perpetual warfare state overseas, which consumes $1 trillion a year of our taxpayers' money, which ruins our national defense. But it will come to an end. It came to an end with the Soviets. The Soviet system collapsed miraculously without violence. We didn't have to fight them. They had these nuclear weapons, and one of the reasons they say we have to go after the Iranians is because they're thinking about building a nuclear bomb. I'm sure they thought about it because everybody around them had them. You know, the Russians have them, Israel has them, India has them, Pakistan have them. We have submarines out there with nuclear bombs, and that's the only thing people respect is if you counteract and say, well, don't mess with me, we have a nuclear weapon. So I suspect they would like to have one. But there's our CIA has not given any concrete evidence that they're actually working on a nuclear weapon. But just think of this, of the danger that we're exposed to by our willingness to go over there and agitate more, and even support the concept, quite possibly, of bombing these potential nuclear sites and really having an explosion of war up there. But just think about it. The Iranians can't even refine gasoline. That's why the gasoline boycott is a big deal. That they couldn't run their cars. They can't even make gasoline. And here we're getting ready to expand a war that we can't afford, that will diminish our national defense and bring us to our knees, because almost anything can bring our dollar to our knees. So nobody's going to attack us. We are the most powerful military force in the world, and they're not going to attack us. Nobody is going to launch a missile attack on us, but we could be attacked financially. We are the biggest debtor in the history of mankind. China's holding our debt, and one of these days, if push comes to shove, they can turn it off for us. Instead of trying to spread themselves around the world militarily, the Chinese right now have all our dollars. Guess what they're doing? They're buying up oil wells in Iran. We have lost something in this country. We are not good at freedom ideas, and we're not good at capitalism anymore. We need to look at this and decide which way we're going, and I would say the founders had us going in the right direction, and we better get